Your reaction to Ashley's new deal?
No, really pleased. There's a number of situations I've said all along. We always keep in good dialogue, we feel, and open dialogue with the players and their agents. And some deals happen quicker, some slower, of course. That's just the way it is. We want to safeguard the club the best we can, and that's another step in the right direction when we sign, good players and players that have been historically good for us and continue to be good players. It's a good sign for the club to continue keeping these players here.
It's a remarkable rise for him from non-league to Premier League. Can you recall what persuaded you to sign him?
I think there was a mixture of things. I think we liked what he was about when he was at Brighton. We'd known him for a few years there. And being realistic as well, the budgetary side of things at the club. I think he cost us the huge sum of 450,000, I think, and then more add-ons when we went up. So I don't know, it ended up 750 or something like that. That was the world that was in at the time. It was my only signing for the first 18 months, and a very good one it's been too. So a mixture of things. We were shopping in the reality market that we often have to shop in. But I must make it clear, we did feel he was a player who was good then and could continue to improve. And I think he has. On both levels, he's been good then, he's continued to get better and continues to improve as a player. Do
you sympathise with defenders today when you think that they have to play against him? Because he looks a
No, I sympathise with defenders across the board. I personally, as an ex-centre-half, I was the biggest fan of centre-forwards. I think it's the toughest job in the game. Scoring a goal is the hardest job in the game, and doing it regularly is even harder. I've got a respect for all players, but I think centre forwards are always the key to a side, and if you've got good centre forwards, you've got a chance, I always think.
And he's 30 years of age, but he said today he wants to end his career at Burnley. I mean, that's some tribute, isn't it?
Well, I think over time he's become settled here with his family as well, and I think families are an important part of, always have been. But I think modern football, the wives and the lives that they have are an important factor. And when you get that mix right of on the pitch and playing and enjoying that side of it, and then off the pitch when the family are settled, I think that's a good mixture. And I think his whole situation is settled. He enjoys it here. He knows the challenges here, and he knows it's not a walk in the park. And he continues to improve. So it's a healthy mixture, I would say.
So that's the good news. Bad news is you need to end this run that you're on at the moment. You were incredibly critical, I thought, of your players after the game at Sheffield United.
I think there's a time and a place. No, I think there's a time and a place. No, I very rarely, I didn't individualise. That's not really my bag. But I think as a unit, as a team, including myself and the staff, we think we're all as one. And we have to take the knocks as well. And we've had a good start of the season. I don't think one result makes it not a good start generally, particularly where we were last season to where we are this season. So there's definitely been strides made. And I think sometimes you just got to be realistic. It was a poor performance, and that's taken nothing away from Sheffield United. I made it clear after. I thought they were excellent. They did what they've been doing to other teams, with that freedom that comes, that first season in the Premier League, that freedom that comes with your first season. And they deserved it on the day, and we were nowhere near it. First half more so. Second half we responded a bit, but first half nowhere near our levels that are required to win games at this level. So we've got to correct that.
So have you needed to have more words this week? Has there been a response?
No, not overly. Just reminding them of what's important. They know. I mean, I've got there's an honesty and a thoroughness to the group here that I believe in. Take massive pride in what they've achieved for many years and what they continue to do so. So I think it's more a bit of guidance and a bit of sort of reminding, really. And the things with football and performances, you're never as far away as you think, and it was a poor half. Probably we had another one at Brighton. Second half, we actually got a nicked a point that day. But two halves so far this season compared to last season, when there was a lot of really below par performances, and I think we've shifted it forwards. Now we've got to make sure we take care of business Saturday, and not an easy game, of course. Never is in the Premier League.
How do you manage it this week? Do you go round individuals or do you address them as a group?
No. We just speak as a group. Remind some individuals, just in passing on the training ground, but nothing heavy. Like I say, there's a lot of good work been done this pre-season and this season so far. And it just sometimes gives you a jolt. Now that's got to be a healthy jolt, when you don't perform. So that's what we're looking for, a healthy jolt to remind us and a healthy reaction to go and take on the next game. And we've often done that, and we've got to do it again.
3 defeats on the bounce and you're only 4 off the drop zone, but you're only 4th off 6th place as well. Does that give you an illustration of how tight the league is just at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's slightly more topsy-turvy again. We saw this a number of years ago where a couple of teams are still altering their form, with Man United and Arsenal, and Tottenham slightly indifferent compared to their norms, I would say. So that's altered it slightly as well. So some sort of abstract results compared to the norm, and certainly compared to last season. But yeah, I mean, it's very open outside of the top superpowers, and like I say, 3 of them are just having a slightly indifferent time by their standards, and I think that makes it more open.
What do you make of West Ham? Because they invested a lot. They had high hopes, I think, of a top 6, even a top 4 finish. There was talk of in the summer. They're just a point above you. They've lost 3 out of 4. What do you make of their season?
Well, they had a real flying start, I thought. And I think I can only imagine from the outside in, their manager, like most do, have that up and down spell, and we've had one now. You kind of scratch your head sometimes, because they've certainly got talent. They're a good side when they're all on it, and they all play well. We know they're a very good side, and they've had a couple of down days, and that can happen. So I think we're all searching for consistency of performance. I speak about it all the time. It's very important to us. And I think maybe they're trying to find their consistency, but it's not for me to really worry about them, other than to make the players aware of some of their threats, but equally some of the ways that we can affect them, and put into action a game plan that we think can win a game, and that's what we'll do.
What are your memories of the last time you played them at Turf Moor? It was a sort of pivotal game for you last season. You'd had that really tough first half, lost to Everton on Boxing Day, and then everything seems to click after that West Ham victory. Yeah,
we played well that day, and like I said, even with that first half of the season last season, we're not always a million miles away. And the correction occurred. It just so happened it was West Ham that kind of the start point. But I can assure you, you get a start point, it doesn't guarantee the next one. You've got to earn every one that you get, and we performed well in the second half of the season. That's gone into the early part of this season, and we've got to continue that with performance levels and consistency. But they're a good side. They've got some very good individuals. They're a good side. They have spent a lot of money, as you're suggesting. They've got a fantastic manager who's incredibly experienced. So we don't take anyone lightly, and certainly not these, just because they come into Turf Moor. We know it'll be another important game for us.
How are your injuries looking? I've got Wood, Goodmanson and Drinkwater. Can you give us an...
Yeah, Drink is he needs game time now, but he's been training full out with us, and he's working hard to get back to full fitness. Woody's got every chance of being involved this weekend, and Johan continues to make progress, but as I said, it's going to be weeks. I can't think what he is now. He's maybe 4 weeks in, so he's getting closer to getting out on the grass, but not there yet. It's going to be still a number of weeks yet.
I think you said all 11 shirts could be up for grabs this week on the back of the Sheffield United game. Should we expect changes this weekend?
It's a possibility. I mean, the reason for saying it, they always are, by the way. But if you're on a tough, you have a tough result, particularly a tough performance, then it's fair to say it enhances that fact. The open-mindedness comes, flowing back in, because you're thinking, right, okay, that's not what we expect, and that's not what we wanted. So, it keeps everyone alive again. And I mentioned about the competitive group we have, and that's been on show this week. People want the shirt; they want to go and play.
Can I also just check with you, away from Burnley in a sense, are you off to see Mike Riley this afternoon?
We are.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are ahead of that meeting on VAR?
Well, I think it'll be interesting now, because, something that I've been speaking about for a long time, part of that will be simulation, and Pep Guardiola went out this week and said about diving and named a player. So that's probably opened that up more so, because if it's the top people in the sport, and I class him and Jurgen Klopp, who mentioned about tactical fouling, then, they're the top guys. These are, top, at least in this country, probably in Europe, probably in the world even. So if they're mentioning it, then I presume it has more weight than my words, and therefore they'll have to look at that, and that will certainly be part of the agenda. It is actually factually part of the agenda, and then other things, the running of it, the timelines, the effect it's having, the goods, the bads, the uglies. So I think it's a mixture of things. But so far I haven't been yet, by the way. So that's what I'm imagining. We'll wait and see. But no, I think the something I've spoken about at length in the past is simulation, and I think if Pep Guardiola's mentioned it, and equally tactical fouling, if you throw in feigning of injury, then you've got a healthy mixture that this meeting should at least have a certain period to enhance upon that and decide what should be done or what could be done, with sometimes the use of VAR, if needed, of course. We don't want it to overrun the game. We've all said that. All the managers have said that, and of course the powers that be. But it needs to be a valid part of it, and that is something it needs to cover, in my opinion, them 3 things. You'll
have watched an awful lot of football this season and seen how it's been used. It clearly doesn't seem to be working as smoothly as everybody hoped. Can you pinpoint why?
Well, the offside has been. I think we're all whether you're happy or not about it, and I laughed about it the other week. I did mention it. Some managers going out, well, he's only 3 inches offside. Yeah, he is 3 inches offside. That's the rules. That's the way it is. So I think that one's worked pretty well. I think the decision side of things, that's the hard part, but we know it's never going to be 100%. We know that because every referee will see it in their own mind, even on a screen, they'll see their own version of it. I think there's been some really tough ones to call. I personally was amazed with the Michael Keane one. I was amazed that's given us a penalty, being an ex-centre-half and a clumsy one at that. I think that, I was amazed at that one. I was amazed J-Rod gets brought down last week. Clip on the ankles, we know where that lives. We didn't get anything. There's numerous ones, they're just 2 different ones that I've noticed. I think it will improve. I think the idea of looking through a screen is different to the emotion of refereeing when you're there. So they will learn to analyse it differently, I think. I'm a fan of it. So I think it just needs to be altered, streamlined and used, not even more wisely, just learn the skill of what it is and how it looks different through a screen, but still use that emotional response that a referee would have from years of service to the game. But
you looked, for example, last night in the City game, there was a couple of decisions. Very quickly, it was sorted. He went over to the monitor to have a look, and the game progressed very quickly. It just seemed to take forever in the Premier League. Well,
but that's probably the enormity of the Premier League, the enormity of each decision, the seriousness of each decision, and the fact that it's new. Personally speaking, I've said this before, I'm not a fan of the screen anyway. I only mentioned it after the Leicester game because we specifically got told that it was going to be used. But generally, I'm not a fan of the screen. I don't think it should be there. I think it doesn't take any emotion away if I'm standing there and people are screaming at me while I'm trying to make a decision on a screen. Personally, that should be for the office or wherever, the main park where all the screens are and all the referees are. That should be for that, for me personally. But I think it's something that will improve over time, and I hope it does.
If there's going to be a tweak or a change, should it happen straight away, or do we give it a season to bed in?
Oh no, it's got to happen over a time. The obvious one is because we all witnessed it, was the goal line technology. Everyone thought that was going to be cow. It's not going to work. It's going to ruin the game. And now it's just seen as being the norm. So I think it'll become the norm. I think people are still adjusting to it, still adapting to it, and it's just the turnover of decisions. I think that's the main thing, actually. There is some time lag in certain instances, but I do think that's where they're trying to be so precise. And that's what I said. It's a fine balance between using the screens wisely, but not taking away your refereeing emotion from what you would naturally give, but then using the screens to make sure you've seen every angle to just go, okay, well, I might have got that one wrong, and therefore, in the cold light of day, which we've now got, of course, from someone sitting in a room, they can change that decision.
I know Mike Riley's already met with the Southern-based managers. Do you know what's been discussed there? Have you had a feel of that meeting?
The agenda's the same. The actual running agenda is exactly the same. So I'll wait to hear what the reflection from that group was compared to this group today.
And finally from me, can I just ask you about the Steve Stone internal investigation? It was touched on last week. Any progress with that?
No, it's just still ongoing. Just while we're fact-finding.
Thank you.
Afternoon, Sean.
Afternoon.
You mentioned the team news. Could we just expand a little bit on that if you can? Chris, what you said of every chance. Has he been able to sort of take part in full training?
Yeah, he's been training this week, yeah.
And Danny, you mentioned obviously needs game time. Have you been able to get that into?
Yeah, we're putting that that game programme hopefully into some kind of shape next week before the international weekend.
So he hasn't physically been back in the game yet?
No, but we wanted a training period to make sure he's up to just general training first. We feel quite an intensity to the way we work here, so we want him to be able to handle that first, to be guaranteed. And it's more controllable in training, of course, as well. You put him in a game, you're always looking for him to respond, he's looking to respond, and that game mode kind of kicks in, whereas in training you can be a bit more specific and a bit more tailored to what the player needs.
And we've touched on the contract, but just briefly, obviously good news to get Ashley tied down. You mentioned you're sort of always in dialogue. I think we spoke about Jeff Hendrick in the past. I guess you always want to try and keep your good players here as long as possible going forward, and that'll still be the case in terms
of absolutely. And the dialogue we have is always open with the players and their agents. So we hope to look at numerous contracts in the coming weeks and months.
I was at the under-23s game on Monday. Saw Ali Koiki score, I think, his 8th of the season for the 23s. I know he's been involved in the pre-season, and obviously you've seen a good deal of him. What's your sort of general view on whether he might be the next one to pop out of that group and perhaps graduate into the senior setup?
Well, the group continues to improve. We like what they're doing as a group, as a collective, and there's a nice feel about that group, and he's part of that. He went on loan last year, so therefore he's got an insight into what it offers. We want them to continue progressing, so that's all we're after. Regardless of where they're playing, whether they're here or they're on loan, is that progress, and that's what we want to make sure they continue to make.
I guess perhaps from fans looking out who see goal after goal after goal for him, that it is a big leap, isn't it, from under 23 to even League Two last season with Swindon?
No, it is, and the timing has to be appropriate. It has to be right, and a lot was made of Dwight McNeil and the timing with that. We felt it was right, and I certainly did. Eventually, it's my decision, and I felt that was right. You don't always get them right, but we felt it was right, and Dwight's proved that was right. But timing's different for each player. And
you mentioned Dwight then, this is going to be a theme until January, I think, with speculation linking in with here, there and everywhere.
Well, it's only because you keep writing about speculation. I can assure I haven't said anything about speculation, I don't believe.
I like to write the speculation, then ask you about it. And then
okay,
write some more speculation.
It's a good way of putting it. When it's a quiet week, you just make some news up and I'll answer to it. Don't worry, no problem.
But how do you sort of manage, I suppose it's similar but different to Taki last year. There was speculation around him, but he's someone who's been around the block, he's played hundreds of games, whereas Dwight's a young lad. His head.
We've had it constantly here, whether it's back in the day with Charlie, then he went, Ingsy, Trips, right the way through to now, whether it's Popey, whether it's Dwight, whether it's Taki, whoever. Not my first rodeo.
No, I know, but does it make any difference with it being a 19-year-old who's sort of fresh and just into the team who... No. There we go.
Yes.
Which is it?
Both.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Much as I enjoy the one-word answers.
Thank you.